Modern Star Trek fixes a problem that killed the franchise 20 years ago. For a franchise built on boldly going where no one has gone before, Star Trek has stumbled more than once. The 1990s marked the golden age, with the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager running back to back. But by the early 2000s, the engine sputtered. Star Trek Enterprise struggled to find an audience, box office returns from the Next Generation movies dwindled, and the once invincible brand looked like it had lost its sense of purpose. For many, it seemed that Star Trek had boldly gone too far, and the audience had tuned out. Yet today, with Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and Discovery, Star Trek feels revitalized, with a new identity that honors its past without being trapped by it. What went wrong 20 years ago, and how is modern Star Trek fixing it now? The answer lies in how the franchise rediscovered variety, confidence, and character-first storytelling. The burnout of the early 2000s. By the time Enterprise premiered in 2001, audiences had already consumed nearly 2 decades of uninterrupted Star Trek. While the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine had expanded the franchise's scope, Voyager and Enterprise leaned heavily on familiar formulas. The problem wasn't that they lacked quality. Both had strong casts and moments of brilliance, but that Star Trek had become predictable. Episodes followed rigid structures, a cosmic anomaly, a moral quandary, some technobabble, and a neat reset button by the end. Meanwhile, the films Insurrection and Nemesis failed to capture the larger-than-life stakes of earlier adventures, instead feeling like extended TV episodes. By the early 2000s, mainstream audiences wanted grit, cinematic spectacle, and serialized drama, things Star Trek was reluctant to embrace. The franchise had cornered itself. Hardcore fans remained loyal, but casual viewers drifted away. Without evolution, Star Trek was no longer the future, but a relic of the past, the reboot that shook things up. J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009 injected adrenaline back into the brand. The Kelvin Timeline films brought faster pacing, dazzling visuals, and an emphasis on action. For a while, that strategy worked. 2009 Star Trek was a critical and commercial hit, reintroducing Kirk, Spock, and the Enterprise to a modern audience. But the sequels leaned so heavily on spectacle that they drifted away from the core DNA of Star Trek: social commentary, exploration, and philosophical debate. Abrams' reboot kept the brand alive, but it didn't solve the deeper issue of what Star Trek wanted to be in the 21st century. It would take modern streaming-era Trek to finally answer that question. Modern Trek's secret weapon: diversity of storytelling. The biggest change today is that Star Trek is no longer forced to be one thing. On Paramount Plus, multiple series cater to different corners of the fandom. Discovery embraced serialized storytelling, tackling issues like identity, trauma, and political conflict. Strange New Worlds returned to the episodic Planet of the Week structure, but with modern polish and layered character arcs. Lower Decks leaned into humor and nostalgia, giving fans a meta-comedy that still honors canon. Prodigy opened Star Trek to a younger audience, blending adventure with mentorship. This variety keeps the franchise fresh. Fans who prefer classic optimism can watch Strange New Worlds. Those who want irreverent comedy can watch Lower Decks. Instead of one show trying to be everything, Star Trek is now a constellation of storytelling approaches. Embracing characters first. Perhaps the most important correction modern Star Trek has made is putting characters at the center again. Earlier shows often prioritized technobabble over emotional stakes. Today, episodes are built around character-driven dilemmas. Pike wrestling with his fate, Burnham navigating the balance between duty and individuality, Mariner defying hierarchy while craving connection. This doesn't mean science and philosophy are gone, far from it, but they now serve the characters instead of overshadowing them. The audience connects with people first, then absorbs the broader ideas. It's the same lesson that made the original series endure. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy weren't just archetypes. They were flawed, funny, and human. Courage to experiment. Another way modern Star Trek has avoided the mistakes of 20 years ago is by embracing experimentation. Episodes of Strange New Worlds have ranged from courtroom dramas to musical theater, horror to classic adventure. Lower Decks lampoons Star Trek tropes while deepening lore. This tonal flexibility ensures the franchise doesn't stagnate again. Compare that with Enterprise, which often felt like it was walking on eggshells, hesitant to deviate too far from the mold. Modern Star Trek accepts that not every experiment will land. but the risk itself keeps things exciting. Reconnecting with optimism. Finally, the revival works because it restores Star Trek's sense of hope. At its worst, early 2000s Trek felt like it had forgotten why humanity reached for